Good morning, angels and all. Day 17 of our 365-day podcast odyssey. And when we're dealing with problems, there tend to be several basic ways of doing it. One is to pretend it's not there, denial, walk around it. My car's not going, it's making a funny noise. I'll just keep driving it and somehow it'll fix itself. Doesn't generally work. Another way is to get in there and fix it and pull it apart and fix the car or fix the relationship or whatever. Try and focus on the things that are making it not work. And that often works. Another way, the non-standard illogical way, is to take our problem and make it bigger. So I'll give you two examples from two of my courses that I ran, the Free to Be Me course. So one of them was Helen, who had been about 6 months previous, she'd been divorced. She had a primary school age boy, I think he was 6 or 7, and her husband was being an absolute bastard. They had shared custody, and when he was meant to pick the boy up, he wouldn't turn up. Or sometimes he would pick the boy up and he wouldn't bring him back, or he would take the boy off on some adventure when he was supposed to be with her, and he was inaccessible. Sometimes he wouldn't pay the alimony, the money, and it was all very deliberate. And she was really stressed because it was causing her stress, and the boy found it really difficult because he liked to have a regular life, liked to know what was going on. And he could never know if Dad was going to turn up, pick him up. Could be an hour later, could be 2 hours later. He never knew what was going to happen once he was with Dad, because Dad might take him off in somewhere unexpected, and it was very, very difficult for her. And so she was trying to solve this problem of, if you like, an antagonistic ex-husband who was making life difficult for her and her son. And there seemed to be no legal remedy, no legal way that she could enforce that he would turn up on time and all that stuff. And so she was focusing on this problem of a husband who was being very deliberately obstructive. And so I said, well, we can work on that and we can fix him. She said, that ain't going to work. And that was the answer I was expecting, because we can't change other people, not by forcing change. So I said, so as a group, we had a brainstorming and said, how could we make this problem bigger? I said, no, it's that bad as enough it is. And I said, just let's play with it. We'll do some brainstorming. You don't have to do anything. We'll just play with the idea of making this a bigger problem for you to solve. She sort of calmed down and she was fine by the end of the 2-hour session, but fairly resistant to having her problem being made bigger. Anyway, by the end of the session, she'd actually got quite excited, because through the brainstorming, what she decided to do is, instead of trying to fix her custody problem, her personal one, she decided she was going to, it's been crazy, she was going to become a custody lawyer, and sort this problem out for all children and couples in New Zealand. So she made the problem bigger. It went way beyond what she expected. And so the course was 17 weeks, once a week. So during the week, she set herself the task of finding out what it took to become a lawyer. And she went to the local courthouse, to find out, some details and talk to people and what was going on in the custody world and whatever. And so she came back to the next week session a little bit despondent. She found that she decided the cost of becoming a lawyer and the time to take to become a lawyer, several years and, I don't know, $20,000 something, it was too much. She couldn't do that. And so I suggested we just leave it. Just hold, if you like, hold the energy that you would like to make life better for all children in New Zealand. So the lawyer path didn't work for her, but hold the energy, if you like, hold the purpose or the declaration. And maybe there's another way that she could do it. So she sort of relaxed into that and then came back the third week jumping out of her skin. What had happened was, because she'd gone along to the courthouse and chatted to people, they were really impressed with her enthusiasm. She was an intelligent woman who picked up on things really quickly, and the whatever you call it, who was in charge of the courthouse, he was really impressed with her and with her idea. He had gone away and talked to his elders and betters or whatever, some other in Auckland or whatever, and he offered her a job. And she ended up having a job as her specialty within the court was a mediator for couples to do with custody cases. They had mediators before, but they weren't specialists. And the manager of the courthouse had discovered that there were a lot of unresolved cases. They hadn't focused on them. So suddenly she realized they had a job that needed doing, and the person turned up. So she got a job as a court mediator, and there was a qualification. She had to do a certificate or something, and the court system paid for that and paid for her. And so it was not a full-time job, so it enabled her to pick up her son after school and drop him off in the morning. It fitted with all of that. So it took 2 or 3 weeks for this to all happen. The other amazing thing that happened, so she had a job, a well-paid job, fitted. The other interesting thing that happened was her husband's behavior changed. Now, we don't know. We didn't talk to him. But I'm putting it down to the fact that she relaxed. She wasn't so concerned with her husband's, because her issue was around her husband and she was focusing on him. So she noticed everything that he did and didn't do. Now that her world had got bigger, she was focused on all these other people's issues, and her life got bigger. And so her personal problem kind of assumed a smaller space in her brain, in her mind. And because I think she relaxed into that and her mind was now taken up with other things, she wasn't consumed with her husband, and somehow that flowed into him. I don't know how, eked into him. He was trying to prove a point, and because she was so resistant to him doing the wrong thing, he would make it worse. Now she kind of didn't care, in a sense. She cared less about his behavior because she had other things to care about. And maybe he just gave up because there was no reactions from her when he was bad. So she's happily in an amazing job that she absolutely loves. Her custody situation with her husband and her son is now working fine. She's earning good money. And so that happened because we made her little problem a bigger one. And sometimes when we step out of that, something magic happens. So another situation, and so another participant in my Free to Be Me courses was Gerald in Tauranga, and he was a plumber, and he'd lost his job. There'd been a downturn in the building as building industry goes up and down. He'd lost his job, and he couldn't find another job. He was middle-aged, experienced, had all the certificates and qualifications, but he couldn't find another job being a plumber. And he didn't have the confidence to start his own business. So his focus was, I can't find a job. I need to find a job. I need to find a job. I said, how can we make this a bigger problem? No, I don't want a bigger problem. It's enough. I've got 3 kids and a wife, and I need to provide for them. And I said, we're just playing with this. You don't have to do it. We'll just play with it in our minds and do stuff on the board. And so we had a brainstorming session about how he could make his little problem bigger. And by the end of the session, oh, hello, Joy. There you are again. Nice to see you. It says bring you on camera, but I don't know how to do that. I will learn this as we go along. And by the end of the session, we had come up with, we had as a group to support Gerald. The bigger problem was he was going to provide a way for other tradespeople to get jobs. So what he ended up doing, so I gave him some suggestions about what he could do during the week, and I happened to have some friends. I was a member of Rotary, so I knew some lawyers and some accountants and other people. So I arranged meetings for him with them about how to set up an organisation that would help other people get a job, other tradespeople who had come out of a job. So he came back the next week full of confusion because he'd suddenly been meeting with these professional people. One was an employment consultant, another was a lawyer, another was an accountant, and there were 2 others, I forget now. I think one was the member of the union, the plumbers union or something. And he was just so full of, oh God, I can't handle it. It was too much. But he was overjoyed because the accountant and the lawyer that he spoke to thought, I loved his enthusiasm. He was such a good, grounded, basic, bloody good bloke, as they said. And they wanted to support him. And so what they did was they set up a trust to help unemployed tradespeople or people without a trade to get a trade and find a job. So they found a property that was vacant. It was a big old shed that one of the members of Rotary knew about. They all got together, and the Rotary Club actually created this group to help Gerard. And so in the end, he created this trust, the unemployment trust, to help people in Tauranga find jobs. And so there were people learning glazing and plumbing and electrical, and what else was it? Car painting was another one. So they had this huge shed, and it was done into sections, and they set up spray booths. This took probably 6 months. So they started small, but over time, it was just this amazing group of people who really wanted to work, who wanted to get off the unemployment, and also on the other side were these professionals who got the inner buzz for helping people that they would not normally associate with. And they created a trust. And Gerald was paid handsomely, paid well for managing the trust. And so he found himself a plumber now becoming a business manager, which he didn't have the confidence to do, not on his own. But with the support of these other people, it all just went. I mean, there were problems, there were issues, and the council wanted permits and and there were people in the group who pulled out. They had little personal squabbles and stuff. But Gerald found that he was actually very good at managing people and quelling disagreements. He did a skill he didn't know he had. So these two people, Helen and Gerald, had personal problems, and they were big problems for them at the time, because any problem, if it's the only thing that you're worrying about, it's huge. But if you create something bigger, your personal problem kind of, you don't forget it, you don't give up on it, but it diminishes in size, and usually it takes you somewhere where you could not have imagined going. Helen could not have imagined working in the court system and being a qualified mediator. Gerald could not have imagined running this organisation. I think they had about 200 students in the end. It was massive. And working with all of these professional people that he'd never communed with before. He ended up giving talks to different Rotary clubs around the Bay of Plenty. He blew up into this amazing new person. And it was just so, excuse me, feeling a bit tearful. It was so heartening to see that the growth in this man and what he could do in his community. So I'm suggesting that if you have a problem, think about how you can make it bigger. Take it from the personal, and how can you expand that problem to be fixing others with the same problem in your community, in your nation. Go big. Get together with a few other crazies and do some brainstorming. Just play with the idea. How can you make it bigger? And that, my darlings, is an idea for today. Whatever problem you've got, make it bigger. So I think sometimes a little thing comes over the finish button and I can't push the finish button, but it came over and it's just gone. And hi, John. Nice to see you again. And I bless you and I wish you an amazing day of expanding your problems.